Council, this meeting has been advertised in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-6, with adequate notice of this meeting being provided to the borough's 2 official newspapers and also published on the borough's website. Ms. Antonides, will you call the roll, please?
Yes, Councilman Benjavanga?
Here.
Councilman Dean?
Here.
Councilwoman Faustini?
Here.
Councilman Besh?
Here.
Councilman White?
Here.
And Council President Wollick is away on vacation this evening.
Can you take us through a review of tonight's agenda, please?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this evening we had a public hearing for a release of performance bond posted by Quincy Place Associates. The one matter on for executive session will need to be tabled until the June 3rd meeting, Mr. Mayor. We have the approval of council minutes for May 6th. There are 3 proclamations on this evening, 1 ordinance for a second reading by title, 3 ordinances on for a first reading by title. We have 3 budget-related resolutions this evening, 11 other resolutions this evening, 3 matters of correspondence, and payment bills totaling $1,420,652.97.
Thank you. Can I
Council
get a,
reports.
I'm sorry.
And sorry, we conclude with public
Oh,
comment.
my apologies. Can I get a motion to table the executive session for night 19-176?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Councilwoman Faustini, seconded by Councilman White. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Council comments on agenda items?
Madam Mayor?
Nothing, Mayor.
Council comments on the release of the performance bond posted by Quincy Place Associates, public improvements to block 388, lot 25. No? Everything's in order, correct, Amy?
Yes, it is, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. We have representation?
Thank you, Andrew Ulrich, on behalf of Quincy Place Associates LLC. I have a representative of the company, John Westerhold, if the council has any questions for him. I believe the borough's professional has also weighed in today by letter that the conditions have been met, and that it was recommended that the bond be released.
Okay. Any council questions for the representative from Quincy?
None.
None? Okay. At this point, we'll open it up for public comments regarding the release of the performance bond posted by Quincy Place Associates, block 338, lot 25. That was kind of slow. Seeing none, close the public portion. You guys are all set. You are
Thank you.
more than welcome to stay, but I don't see that happening.
Good night. He's staying, but I'm not.
That's a good one. At this point, we'll open it up for public comments on agenda items only. Seeing none, close the public
Oh,
portion.
there is one.
Where's that? Oh, Mr. Sider. What's that?
Is that what your insurance?
Question on resolutions 19-177. Can you explain that? What the new mandates are?
Glenn, you want to go into detail on that?
It's just that we abide by the state regulations and our hiring practices. It's something that we do.
Is that, we're a civil service town, correct?
Mhm.
Okay. Are all our hiring practices, do we follow civil service?
Are all of our hires, not all of our hires have civil service titles, nor are all of our hires in civil service. I mean, the vast majority of them are, correct.
What determines the ones that are or aren't?
I'm sorry?
What determines the ones that are or
Or
aren't?
whether or not they have classified titles within civil service or if they're unclassified. So you may have certain positions like myself or Amy's that technically are not civil service titles. You may have certain confidential employees that don't have civil service titles. You may have temporary help, or you may have interim that once again they're not civil service.
What employees in South Plainfield, like DPW, for example,
They're in civil service.
they're all civil service?
They're all civil service,
Except the seasonal.
Summer
except
help.
for seasonal, summer
Part-time.
help. Police, they're all civil service, correct.
And what's the hiring practice of those employees? I mean, How does civil service differ from being not civil service,
Well,
non-civil service employee?
well, the civil service employees, yes, you'll run an ad, but eventually there'll be a list. Like right now, for police, there's a listing of how everybody tested out, and we work off of that list, correct?
Same thing for all the other employees? Like, again, Public
I mean,
Works is
unless it's like-
the next biggest thing. so-
Correct, I mean, if it's an entry-level position, you know, you could hire directly into that spot, you know what I mean? You may have instances where you have a position within a department that the hiring takes place within that department, and the only people that could bid on it are within the department. So there's a lot of nuances too.
Then, question on 19182, you're hiring a part-timer, and it says with no benefits for the position of groundskeeper. When you say part-time, no benefits, that's just health benefits, or are they entitled to sick time and vacation time?
They are not entitled to sick time and vacation time unless they work more than 10 months out of the year. Correct.
Okay.
So if that person becomes a permanent part-time, then they are entitled, because we're a civil service town, they are entitled to sick and vacation time prorated.
Prorated.
Correct, that's correct.
Is that a 10-month position?
We haven't had a lot of 10-month positions in the groundskeeper. As of right now, I would say no. If that changes, I mean, that's something we could address, but as of right now, I would say no.
No, I'm just saying, in the future, maybe when you do the resolution, if it's no benefits, but they're gonna receive sick and vacation time, then just say no health benefits.
Correct.
So
Well, is that 10 consecutive months? Is that
Correct.
okay?
So for instance, the summer help that has been hired over the last meeting, in this meeting, none of them are gonna be getting health benefits unless, you know, at the end of the year, Mr. Miller, when I say the end of the year, the end of the summer, Len comes to me and says, listen, you know, everybody's going back, I need this one person or two people to stay on. I mean, but it's usually an extenuating circumstance. But all those, if Len's got 10 guys, 10 people working in Public Works for the summer, all 10 of them will be jettisoned.
How many part-time positions do we have in which they're getting sick time and vacation time? I mean, like the people at the PAL, there's a lot of part-time people that work there. I mean, so are they getting vacation time, sick time, because they're working more than 10 months, but that's the minimum that they have to work is 10 months?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think the boroughs have been in civil service since 1965, so when that decision was made, those employees that are over there, yes, there was probably one or two over in Public Works.
Well, the only reason why I'm asking is because I had spoken to somebody a few weeks ago, and they were saying that they had been part-time and they were unaware that they were entitled to vacation day or sick time until I think 2 years ago when somebody filed. And I guess the municipality wasn't aware of it. That's what I'm saying. I didn't know if the civil service and this new resolution, the new mandate, has anything to do with that we're getting our house in order. That's nothing to do with it. Okay, and the last question, on the budget, 19,179. There's two things in looking at it that I see that aren't in there that we should have for a variety of reasons. I'll touch on it later also, but I think for the council in this budget preparation, I think it's really time that we have a full-time property maintenance officer and a full-time business administrator, town administrator. I've worked in towns with full-time town administrators, and they're worth their weight in gold to save us money. I think it's too much for one person to handle, Glenn, you know, as a CFO and administrator. I think there's things that have taken place that really it's something that should be considered going through this budget process.
Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, close the public portion. At this point, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn tonight's agenda meeting.
So
Second, Mayor.
We are adjourned, seeing no reason to delay. We'll go right to the public meeting. Again, this meeting has been advertised in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-6, with adequate notice of this meeting also being provided to the borough's 2 official newspapers and also published on the borough's website. Ms. Antonides, will you call the roll once more?
Councilman Benjavanga?
Here.
Councilman Dean?
Here.
Councilwoman Faustini?
Here.
Councilman Vesh?
Here.
And Councilman White.
Here.
Thank you. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance and the invocation by Councilman White. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this time that we're gathered together. We ask that you would give us wisdom as we make decisions on behalf of this borough, that you would continue to help us to be a unified community that serves one another in compassion and cares for one another. We ask that your divine protection would be upon us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Once again, we'll open it up for public comments on agenda items only. Seeing none, close public portion. Can I get a motion to approve the council minutes of May 6th, agenda, public, and executive?
So motion.
Motion by Councilman White, seconded by Councilman Vess. Ms. Antonides, can you call the roll?
Councilman Benjavanga?
Yes.
Councilman Dean?
Yes.
Councilwoman Faustini?
Yes.
Councilman Vesh?
Yes.
Councilman White.
Yes.
Passes 5-0.
Thank you. We have 3 proclamations on for tonight. First is Mental Health Awareness Month. And whereas the U.S. Surgeon General's report on mental health has concluded that mental health is an essential component of overall health and well-being, whereas for more than 50 years, Mental Health America has proclaimed May as Mental Health Awareness Month to raise awareness about mental health, combat the social stigma and discrimination associated with mental illness that often prevents people from seeking help, promote a message of hope and recovery, and celebrate consumer strength and resilience. And whereas people with mental illness and addiction recover if given necessary support and services in the community, yet many avoid seeking help due to the stigma and fear of discrimination. And whereas the Borough of South Plainfield recognizes the stigma associated with mental illness and addiction and acknowledges that many people may remain unserved because of the stigma of seeking help. This month we call attention to this so we can bring mental illness and addiction out of the shadows and encourage treatment and support. We acknowledge that greater public awareness and mental health and addiction recovery can change negative attitudes and behaviors. And whereas the Borough of South Plainfield stands with those impacted by behavioral health challenges and pledges to increase awareness and greater understanding of these conditions, we will work to reduce stigma and discrimination and increase appropriate, accessible support and services. We will strive to promote a message of hope and belief that healing and recovery are attainable. Now, therefore, I, Matthew Pianish, Mayor of the Borough of South Plainfield, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2019 as Mental Health Awareness Month and call upon all citizens to participate in efforts to increase awareness and better understanding of mental illness and addiction and work towards eliminating the stigma in South Plainfield and Middlesex County. I don't think we have anybody here for that. It's also National Police Week. Whereas the Congress and President of the United States have designated a week in May as National Police Week, and whereas the members of the South Plainfield Police Department play an essential role in safeguarding the rights and freedoms of citizens of South Plainfield, and whereas it is important that all citizens know and understand the problems, duties, and responsibilities of their police department, and the members of our police department recognize their duty to serve the people by safeguarding life and property, by protecting them against violence or disorder, and protecting the innocent against deception and the weak against oppression. And whereas the Police Department of the Borough of South Plainfield has grown to be a modern and scientific law enforcement agency which continuously provides a vital public service. Now, therefore, I, Matthew Pianish, Mayor of the Borough of South Plainfield, call upon all citizens of South Plainfield and upon all patriotic, civil, and educational organizations to observe the week of May 19th through 25th, 2019 as National Police Week, and urge all citizens to honor and salute the service of law enforcement officers in our community and in the communities across the nation. And we have one additional proclamation. It's Lyme Disease Awareness Month. And whereas the Borough Council of the Borough of South Plainfield values the health of citizens within the community and support programs to raise awareness of Lyme and other tick-borne diseases, and whereas Lyme disease caused by spiral-shaped bacteria or by newly discovered Mayonnaise is an urgent health concern across the nation. And whereas the risk of contracting Lyme disease can be year-round, of which the nymphal ticks, which are the size of a poppy seed, are the most active in spring and summer months. And in most cases, they are attached for 36 to 48 hours or more before Lyme disease bacterium can be transmitted. And whereas Lyme disease is diagnosed based on symptoms, physical findings, and the possibility of exposure, which infected persons will develop a rash that may have a bull's eye appearance. And whereas most cases of Lyme disease can be treated successfully within a few weeks of antibiotics, and taking steps to prevent tick bites can help, including using insect repellent, removing ticks promptly, applying pesticides, and reducing tick habitats. Now therefore, I, Matthew Pianish, Mayor of the Borough of South Plainfield, do hereby proclaim the month of May as Lyme Disease Awareness Month and call upon all citizens to help spread Lyme disease awareness, prevention, and education. I know we do have somebody in the audience that's going to accept that tonight, so I invite you to come on up. Anybody else who wants to come up? Turn the floor over. You don't know if you want a microphone. Helps. If you want. Yeah. Say anything or anything additional.
My name is Diana Mejias, and I would like to thank the mayor, Mr. Etnesh, and Councilman Derek White for bringing awareness on the Lyme disease epidemic to our town of South Plainfield, especially during the month of May, which is the month of Lyme awareness. Lyme is soaring in New Jersey, climbing to staggering levels not seen in nearly 20 years. In 2017, there were 5,092 reported cases of Lyme disease in the state, the highest yearly total in nearly 2 decades, according to the new data from the New Jersey Department of Health. Middlesex County came in number 11 out of all the counties, and this was the data collected in 2017. I was diagnosed with Lyme's in 2017. I don't remember what life was like without pain. I'm more than the person I was. For many years, I had told I had depression, anxiety, I was lazy, you can do it, get some exercise. My pleas fell on deaf ears. Eventually, I was tested with much resistance to my physicians. And finally, the call that changed my life. You have Lyme's. And they later classified it as fibromyalgia with no improvements from the treatment from the Lyme's. This is so much a disease. This is much more than a disease. It's a category of symptoms which nobody knows the cause. Doctors seem content with the diagnosis, and I have to trust their knowledge, as we all do in our physicians. I learned to live with it, but becoming more crippled by severe pain and having no relief. My body struggles daily. I constantly wonder what my future would be like living in such physical pain. I quickly learned about the controversies surrounding the disease, and the health insurance doesn't cover most appointments or treatment for Lyme disease. I had to pay for most of my appointments and my tests to be diagnosed out of pocket. I have an invisible, unspoken illness. Most people look at you and say you're not sick. It's in your head. So I urge everyone, even though you look good, just go ahead and encourage your physicians that you're not feeling right. For the struggle with chronic Lyme's and fibromyalgia, and the damage to my body is ongoing, and is for most chronic Lyme sufferers until better testing becomes available. Early stages of Lyme's will continue to go undiagnosed and misdiagnosed as this epidemic continues to grow. I would hope South Plainfield continues to educate our community and introduce alignment awareness into our town as I thank you all for our pets, our local schools, especially the athletic department, knowing the growing population on the school properties and our front yards and the paths we all continue to walk in our children. Maize to help us remind us that spring is here, ticks are out, prevention and proper education are the best tools to stay healthy. Again, I thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Diana, and thanks to your family for coming out. I know, I think you had mentioned it's been the biggest resurgence in about 20 years, and I remember, I guess, at the peak of when it was really in the news, it just seemed to be an everyday thing, and now, I don't want to say it's largely forgotten, but I think people, it's kind of in the back of our minds. When we do the litter cleanup every year, I mean, that kind of reminds me of that, and I think we've gotten into some good habits, but I agree with you, and I know we got some school board members here as well, and if there's anything else we can do from our Mayor's Wellness Committee and also just throughout the school to make sure that there is some additional awareness, because unfortunately, some of these things will tend to fall on the back burner as other things come up, but it is such a such a tricky thing and a debilitating thing and a hard thing to diagnose. And if you're not, super observant, it can be very difficult to deal with. So, I applaud you for coming out here and sharing your story. And if there's any additional information that you can share, or if anybody reaches out to any of us, I'd be glad to kind of refer them to you if there's any additional help or counseling that you might be able to provide or some guidance. So, I thank you for coming out. We have one ordinance on for final adoption. Second reading, ordinance 2138.
An ordinance amending Chapter 230 titled Fire Prevention.
Thank you. Can I get a motion for final adoption on ordinance 2138?
Motion. Second.
Motion by Councilman Dean, seconded by Councilman White. As this is for final adoption, I'll open up for public comments regarding ordinance 2138. Seeing none, close the public portion. Council comments regarding ordinance 2138.
None.
Ms. Antonides, can you call the roll?
Councilman Benjavanga?
Yes.
Councilman Dean?
Yes.
Councilwoman Faustini?
Yes.
Councilman Bash?
Yes.
And Councilman White?
Yes.
Passes 5-0.
Thank you. For introduction, ordinance 2139.
An ordinance that provides for the compensation of employees of the Borough of South Plainfield and the method of payment of such compensation for the years 2019 for part-time and seasonal help for recreation.
Thank you. Can I get a motion for introduction on ordinance 2139?
Motion. Second.
Motion by Councilman Dean, seconded by Councilman White. Ms. Antonides, can you call the roll?
Councilman Benjavanga?
Yes.
Councilman Dean?
Yes.
Councilwoman Faustini?
Yes.
Councilman Bash?
Yes.
And Councilman White?
Yes.
Passes 5-0.
Thank you. Also for introduction, ordinance 2140.
An ordinance amending Chapter 187 titled Vehicles and Traffic.
Thank you. Can I get a motion for introduction on ordinance 2140?
So
Motion by Councilman Benjavanga, seconded by Councilman Dean. Ms. Antonides, can you call the roll?
Councilman Benjavanga?
Yes.
Councilman Dean?
Yes.
Councilwoman Faustini?
Yes.
Councilman Bash?
Yes.
Councilman White?
Yes.
Passes 5-0.
Thank you. Also for introduction, ordinance 2141.
Bond ordinance reappropriating $65,000, including $62,500 of proceeds of obligations not needed for their original purpose, and $2,500 from the Capital Improvement Fund in order to provide for the acquisition of a Mason dump truck in and by the Borough of South Plainfield in the County of Middlesex, New Jersey.
Yeah, Mayor, before I went vote, I'll just mention, this is just reappropriating from two different ordinances. I think it's 2100 and 2072. None of this is new monies. The 2500 is original down payment money in the original ordinances.
Okay.
And 625 is the same debt. And really what you're looking at is, similar, not all of them, but essentially similar useful life, garbage truck, mason dump, and
get a motion for introduction on ordinance 2141?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Benjavanga, seconded by Councilman White. Ms. Antonides, can you call the roll?
Councilman Benjavanga?
Yes.
Councilman Dean?
Yes.
Councilwoman Faustini?
Yes.
Councilman Bash?
Yes.
Councilman White?
Yes.
Passes 5-0.
Thank you. We have some budget resolutions tonight. 19-177, certifying the governing bodies of the Borough of South Plainfield has complied with the hiring practices under NJSA 40A:40-5. Can I get a motion, please? Motion by Councilman Dean.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman White. Ms. Antonides, can you call the roll?
Councilman Benjavanga?
Yes.
Councilman Dean?
Yes.
Councilwoman Faustini?
Yes.
Councilman Bash?
Yes.
Councilman White?
Yes.
Passes 5-0.
Thank you. Before we open it up for the public hearing on the 2019 municipal budget, I'll turn it over to our Chief Financial Officer and Administrator, Mr. Cullen.
Yes, Mayor. The reason why there won't be a vote on the budget tonight is from our department hearings. There's been some adjustments. The adjustments really to the original budget haven't really significantly changed where the borough was at introduction, but they changed enough that it's going to require a second public hearing. So there's going to be an additional public hearing on the 2019 municipal budget at our June 3rd meeting. At introduction, at that time, the municipal budget was almost $31 million, $30,965,000. Of that, taxes comprised $20,204,000, which turned out to be an increase from 2018 of about $59.75. I think that's what I originally had reported. Over the last 10 years, we're up less than 0.3%. And at that time, our actual levy cap, I know we had a conversation earlier today,
Yep.
but the amount of increase in property taxes could have actually been up $1.5 million. The library tax, which has always existed, it's forced to be broken out, is up $55,774. That's just a state formula, which is $4.78 per household. That increase really has to do with some of the increase in real estate value that you've seen in the borough. So one of the items here that I'll just mention is the borough's rateable base is approximately $13 million. That in itself has resulted in $183,000 in additional revenue, and it's the 4th consecutive year that our rateable base has been up, and we anticipate the increase again in 2019. Salaries were up 2.2%, which is primarily due to the school resource officers that we now have. And at introduction, the main increases really were principal payments. We've increased our debt service payments, health insurance, police, and some of the pool. Since our budget hearings, the individual line items are significant, but just within the budget, there were 18 different line items that are adjusted here tonight. The largest individual adjustment up was $11,000 in the pool. The largest decrease was in health benefits of $24,000. Municipal taxes in the amended budget that we will have the public hearing on June 3rd are down about $15,000, which means that we're actually $1,518,000 under the levy cap, and the average home is now going to be experiencing a $58 increase. And we also had to add a body armor grant to the budget. Otherwise, all the other grants that we had received were in on introduction. So a lot of times we don't have them for introduction. And I'll go over a lot more of this at our next public hearing, but essentially we're down a little over $1 from where we introduced when you take these 18 line items up and down with the net effect of this. Does anybody have any questions?
So did the amendment, is it increased or did it decrease by a little bit?
The overall taxes are decreasing by $15,000. The amendment, I think we're going down a total of like $10,000 in total expenses. There's some ups, some downs, like I said, addition to the levy cap, and that's really what has come out of our budget hearings.
Okay.
Any other council comments for Mr. Cullen?
No, I just wanted to thank all the department heads for their budget hearings. I know that Christine, myself, and John were at a pool meeting the other day, progressing forward with that, and this obviously amends it and puts enough money in place to move that project forward, so that we're all on the same page when it comes to finalizing that bond and all that stuff. So we had to increase a little bit towards the pool, but we decreased a bunch of other line items, which helped out. So, and thanks everybody for coming out, and Gary and stuff for asking all the questions and going through all this stuff with us. So that's it. I look forward to the next public hearing.
Sure. Anyone else?
Yes, so Mayor, tonight you won't be voting on 178, but you will be voting on 179.
Correct.
And that's in order to introduce the amendment here tonight.
Okay, and just a reminder that borough municipal budget is on the borough website. We do have obviously some copies for people that are here. And as mentioned, the consideration for the adoption of the 2019 municipal budget will not be tonight, it'll be June 3rd.
And Glenn, the reason that you had to do that was the state's gonna require you to resubmit that, correct? Because of,
We're self-review, so it's not like the state is asking us to resubmit. It's
well, I know that there's a certain amount of money that you're supposed to.
correct.
Right.
If there's an adjustment,
Right.
depending upon the line item, if you have any one item that's new within the budget that's more than 1% of the budget, you have to make an amendment. If you have any one line item that goes up or down more than 10%, you have to make an amendment.
Right.
So we had a couple items that have gone up or down more than 10%, correct.
And those were the ones that we went through
Right,
budget hearings.
yeah.
Even
I
though they're
just want
relatively
them to
small.
know that that's, you know, you have
Correct,
to,
and
you
if
have to do
taxes
that.
were to go up or down 5%, we would have to do the
Right.
same as well.
Any other council comments, questions?
None, Mayor.
Okay, at this point, we'll open it up for public comments on the 2019 municipal budget. Seeing none, close the public portion, close the public hearing. Can I get a motion on Resolution 19-179 authorizing the introduction of the amendment to the 2019 municipal budget?
So moved.
Motion by Councilman Benjavanga, seconded by Councilman Dean. Ms. Antonides, can you call the roll?
Councilman Benjavanga?
Yes.
Councilman Dean?
Yes.
Councilwoman Faustini?
Yes.
Councilman Besh?
Yes.
Councilman White?
Yes.
Passes 5-0.
Thank you. Resolutions 19-180 to 19-190. Can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Motion.
Motion by Councilman White, seconded by Councilman Dean. Ms. Antonides, can you call the roll?
Councilman Benjavanga?
Yes.
Councilman Dean?
Yes.
Councilwoman Faustini?
Yes.
Councilman Besh?
Yes.
Councilman White?
Yes.
Passes 5-0.
Thank you. We have 3 items of correspondence: the Environmental Commission minutes from March 30th, the Planning Board minutes of March 12th, and the Environmental Commission monthly report of April. Can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Motion by Councilman White,
Second.
seconded by Councilman Benjavanga. Ms. Antonides, can you call the roll?
Councilman Benjavanga?
Yes.
Councilman Dean?
Yes.
Councilwoman Faustini?
Yes.
Councilman Besh?
Yes.
Councilman White?
Yes.
Passes 5-0.
I apologize. I think we messed that up. Payment of the bills. Can I get a motion for payment of the bills? $1,420,652.97.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Benjavanga, seconded by Councilman Dean. Ms. Antonides, can you call the roll?
Councilman Benjavanga?
Yes.
Councilman Dean?
Yes.
Councilwoman Faustini?
Yes.
Councilman Besh?
Yes.
And Councilman White?
Yes.
Passes 5-0.
Thank you. Mickey, anything for us tonight?
Moving forward, Mayor.
Well wishes, we'll take it. Mr. Cullen,
Nothing, Mayor.
progress. Mr. Miller?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'll just give you an update on the road projects. Hadley Road is scheduled to be paved, and they're gonna start tomorrow night out there. And that'll be finishing off the final section of Hadley Road. Black Rock on Wednesday should be starting the road repairs, which is essentially repaving Laurel Lane, Ford, and Geary Drive. Some problems out there bids on May 23rd, so we should be ready to award that project at the June 3rd meeting with that project.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Miller. Ms. Antonides.
Progress, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Vess.
Progress, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilwoman Faustini.
I just would like to say that we had a tremendous response for our 2 days that we had registration for the Tiger Shark swim team. I'm very happy that we were able to keep that program going this summer in spite of the community pool not being open. And hopefully, this way, when the pool is open next year, they'll all be back and they'll keep their strength up as a team. In addition to that, I just wanted to make everyone aware that the library has transitioned to LMXAC automation system. Going to this system did provide a cost savings to the library, and in addition, it opened up 31 new catalogs that all South Plainfield library card holders now have access to. And you can go online and look through 31 other libraries and request any material that you would like, have it sent to our library, and have it there waiting for you. So it just opened up a lot more to our residents and card holders, and I wanted to make everyone aware. And with that, progress.
Thank you. Councilman Benjavenga.
Thank you, Mayor. Just want to say thank you to all our veterans, and remember those this weekend who gave the ultimate sacrifice. That's what Memorial Day is about, is remembering them who died in battle. There'll be services on Monday, which I know we all attend every year, and it's quite a moving thing to go throughout the cemeteries and stuff like that. I know it's the unofficial start to summer, but it's definitely a way to honor those who died. So we look forward to everybody this weekend. Hopefully the weather's nice, and happy belated to Gary, whose birthday was over the weekend. So happy birthday,
Happy
Gary.
birthday,
birthday.
Gary.
Happy birthday.
And with that progress.
Councilman Dean.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. I just want to thank the rest of the council for going along with Resolution 19-183 for the installation of all the trees and landscaping over at the dog park. Provide some buffer along New Market Avenue. Hopefully keep it a little more quiet, and also providing some shade beside some of the play areas for the dogs as well. So be glad to see that going in very soon. Did get the chance to speak with Alice a little bit earlier today when she was leaving at the end of the day, and then the next thing we'll be working on is probably coming later after the summer's over, is continuing the planting of trees down Franklin Avenue on the opposite side from where we left off last year. So that'll be going into the fall. And I just want to say we had a great time at the car show over the weekend, as beautiful as the weather was. So we had an excellent turnout down there in downtown. The only thing I ask is, I know I reached out to Glenn earlier in the morning that day. Whenever we're having any kind of a town function, whether it's downtown, the municipal lot, or something like that, we have the street sweeper to at least get it out there the day prior, because there's a lot of debris built up in the curb lines, and we had a lot of people coming from. Not that many people probably notice it, but I unfortunately notice a lot of things. But like in front of the OEM building, there's all the white stones that from the winter when they plowed the sidewalks. They're all still sitting there on the corner of the road. So Len, if you can just get somebody over there to at least clean that part up. But again, anytime we're having any kind of function within the town, just to make a quick pass with the street sweeper, it's not costing us much of anything. Just keeps the area looking clean, and lets the residents see that it's actually out as well too. With that, progress.
Thank you, Acting Council President.
Thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to thank the mayor and council for the mental health proclamation. I think I mentioned last year that my mom, for a long time, had struggled with some mental health issues, and I just want to remind people that it doesn't make you a bad person to get diagnosed, get treatment, and you can have a quality of life, that maybe not that you had before, but you can have a good standard of quality of life. So it's really important that people don't shy away from that. And if you have family members that you're a caregiver for, and you suspect something like that's going on, just have them get checked out and treated and diagnosed. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. At this point, we'll open it up for anything on your mind. Ms. Lepore.
Suzanne Lepore, Bullard Place. I'm just here on behalf of the South Plainfield Cultural Arts Commission. Thank you for the landscaping, additional landscaping at the dog park, which segues into a reminder that we have our first dog parade at the Southside Dog Park set for June 15th. I hope everyone can make it to attend. Whether you have a dog or not, we will be holding a contest for the people who are participating and their pets, and we will have prizes for the different categories. So, and we also plan on having little treats for the pets as well. So I believe it's at 3 o'clock. So, and it's a free event and for anyone in town. So thank you.
Excellent. Anyone else? Yes.
Thank you. Sandy Doyen, 105 Elizabethtown Court. I'm just wondering, can you tell me approximately, do you know when the job will be posted for the recreation director?
It should be posted this, I believe this week. And the reason I'm saying believe is obviously the resolution on this
Yeah,
evening
I saw.
was for hiring, Dan Mason. They're still drafting, we didn't let them draft the job description and everything else until they were appointed tonight.
Okay.
So I'm expecting them to be going back and forth starting tomorrow. And so, I'm assuming it'll be up this week.
Okay, so it'll be soon.
Yeah, it'll be very soon.
Okay.
It'll be on the league website, it'll be, local papers and everything else.
Okay. And have there been any qualification changes, or will it be the same type of qualifications that it was?
It'll be similar qualifications.
Be similar? And with that in mind, I just wanted to know, has there been any kind of investigation to find out why there was such a breakdown in having missing money? I mean,
There's ongoing police investigations, and I think
I understand
yeah.
that. No, I don't mean by the police. I know that. I'm talking about with the, I don't want to talk about the other person, but
I think it's all part of that official investigation, and as we break that out further. But yes, there's been a look at the practices, and obviously with perfect hindsight, where those weaknesses
Right.
occurred. And
so
yes.
that we'll put safeguards in place so that
Uh-huh.
this won't happen again?
Well, I would never
Hopefully
say.
There's already been actually
Yeah, exactly.
certain changes made. We have credit card machines now.
Yeah,
at
but I
different
think the public
locations.
needs to know that, not about the credit card machines, but that something,
Yeah.
there's many people that want to know how come nobody's addressing it, and it's just like going by the wayside, and like, they kind of feel like nobody cares. And
Yeah.
it's a really a big deal, relatively speaking, the money that is whatever's missing here, in a town with a bigger budget, it would have been, a lot more money, like, I'm talking percentage-wise. So I think that the town deserves to know that.
Potentially, yes. I mean, theft
Potentially.
of, theft
No,
of
theft is
public
theft,
funds
and let's do
is
it.
never a good thing.
Correct,
But
no.
I mean,
But
you
I-
could have, I don't want to disagree with you, but you could have a very large town and have the same amount, or you
Of
could
course.
have you have small town and have I mean, the amount, I think, not that it's irrelevant, but the amount, to tie the amount to the borough size isn't I don't.
No, what I'm
necessarily
saying
find.
is that to the people in South Plainfield, it's a
Sure,
lot of money.
$1 theft, I think,
Correct,
is too
correct.
much. Right?
So the point I'm trying to make is that I think that there needs to be, somebody needs to say, hey, we're looking at this, and we're going to make sure we're going to try and make sure it never happens again,
Right.
that it's not just going by the wayside. I think that's
Correct.
the point I'm making.
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
I agree with you. Anyone else? Ms. Boyle?
Debbie Boyle, Van Fleet. Mayor Nash, can I have a copy of that mental health proclamation, please? You don't have to give it to me now. As the county school board's president,
Yes.
I've had guest speakers at our past 2 meetings talking about mental health. The one is the superintendent, who has had 6 suicides in his district. I think it's important. We're talking about this in Trenton, also in our school district, among other school districts. The need to recognize mental health in the students, especially the younger students. So I would appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Also, I've invited Mrs. Mijas to come to our fall health fair to discuss the Lyme's disease with all her information that she has. We also have our 5K family walk and run that in conjunction with Mayor's Wellness by Pink Socks. That's June 8th. Registration's at 7:30. The walk race begins 8:30 to 9:30 in part of the park and out to the, that's already been mapped out by
Okay, and I know
Lieutenant.
OEM has, no, not necessarily OEM, but the certs have been, there's a call out to certs. Okay.
Yes, and including, there'll be three officers that'll
Okay.
be in strategic parts.
Yep.
This Friday, the 24th, it's a half day, but that's the 39-minute walk at Riley School. I believe it begins at 10 o'clock.
At 10 o'clock?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, 'cause it's
10
half
o'clock.
day.
Yeah, it's a half day.
Mhm.
Also, June 3rd is the high school scholarship awards, where multiple organizations give scholarships to our high school students. That begins at 6 o'clock. We also have somebody that we're honoring in the Hall of Fame this year, Brian Donnelly. His mom was a teacher at Kennedy School, if anybody knows her. His dad was in this FBI, but Brian was in the Marines. He was a captain. He went to Cornell University, became an attorney, and he does pro bono for veterans.
Oh, wow.
So that'll be on the 3rd at 11:30 at Sherbin's, and then like I said again at night at the high school. Trying to think if there's anything else. I think that's it for now.
No
All right.
problem.
Thanks.
Thank you, Debbie. Anyways, Mr. Zushma.
Michael Dushma, 109 Susan Terrace. I just want to let everybody know that the ice screening with the Lions Club 2 weeks ago was a great success at the schools. We did over 800 students in all 4 grammar schools.
Are you getting donations at the box, curious?
Donations?
I mean,
Outside.
Yeah.
Oh,
outside.
eyeglasses? We always get eyeglasses.
Yeah, you do, okay.
I empty it out all the
Yeah,
time.
I was just curious.
Donation money? No.
Wow, donation of
But
eyeglasses.
it was over 800 students.
Wow.
And we found a lot of students with eye problems.
Well,
Yep.
you did my daughter Ava, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Was it all the schools, Mr. Zushman?
We did all the grammar schools. Next year, we're going to do all the grammar schools and Grant School.
Okay.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Anyone else? Yes, in the back.
Jen Stokel, 918 Delmore. I apologize for being late. I'm not sure if this was addressed, but is there a timeline to when things are going to begin at the community pool? Was that discussed and I missed it? I apologize.
We had our first meeting, just to make sure we were still on target with everything. And then I think we're meeting again June 4th. And then we will have, more specific start date, but we started to lay everything out at that meeting. So it is progressing, and that was addressed. I mean, we don't have a specific date.
Meeting, it was a kickoff.
A kickoff meeting of just with the architect, with the Recreation Committee of myself, Councilman Benjavanga, Councilman Dean, and our interim Recreation Director and engineer.
Okay.
So just getting things in order.
I would expect at the next meeting, you'll probably have a bond ordinance on for the renovation of the community pool. So that'll be on, because what's been awarded so far has been with the design that you originally saw. So that's been awarded. We ended up, there was a number of things we had to do. There was no survey.
We had to
you know,
survey. Yeah.
On hand, I'm just gonna say it, there was no survey on hand for the community pool. There's a lot of stuff there. I mean, you've been there, I've been there. It's a big piece of property. We didn't have surveys for the parking lot, so all that's been done. The design work is currently being done. We're gonna put the ordinance in place. They're looking at whether or not it's gonna be multiple bids, demo bids. So those were some of the things that we went over. We're still waiting to get some answers on that. But nevertheless, there'll be an ordinance putting the money in place for that to go forward. So when you're gonna see jackhammers and all, I don't know if that's gonna be August. I don't know if it's gonna be
And maybe
September.
that is your question, or is your question more that we're on target for opening for the next season?
And right now, we believe we're on target.
Yes.
Okay. All of the above.
All of the
Okay.
above, perfect, okay.
Yep, I want to make sure that's,
Yeah.
where we're
Because there's
moving
some
on.
people that probably could care less about all the other survey
Correct,
details,
correct.
and really just want to know, are we still on target for
I don't
opening?
want you to think we were just meeting.
No.
So there's
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay,
things
that,
going on.
like actual, people are coming out and surveying
Yes.
and like
The surveying work's already done.
getting everything in order. Okay, and I know a couple months ago we spoke about the Recreation Commission, getting the minutes
Mhm.
online. Are those online? Because I wasn't able to find them yet.
Well, we submit them to, they've been submitted now, and then where do they go from there?
They just get
They
filed
have-
away. I haven't been instructed to put any subcommittees.
I don't think any are online, correct? So
Just
if you
planning and
wanted,
zoning.
Just
Oh.
planning,
Planning and
zoning,
board,
and
yeah.
the borough council.
so if you wanted to see them, then what process?
We could put them online. but-
Yeah, because like another thing that like would be nice to have online was the South Plainfield Economic Development. Is that a committee or is that a commission?
It's an advisory board.
Okay, I know that meets on Wednesdays, like the first Wednesdays. The only reason I ask is it's really hard for me to make it to these meetings, but I definitely want to know what's going on like at these meetings, so I can kind of like have an understanding of how things are progressing in town. Just to get here tonight, I was at soccer tryouts and baseball practice of baseball games, which I had to leave early to get here. So if we could just like have like agendas online so I could see what's being discussed, to see if something interests me for me to come out, and just see, you know, what's actually being discussed at the meetings, I'd really appreciate it.
When you say meetings, which,
The recreation
The Recreation
specifically?
Commission, but also like the economic,
Yeah, business advisory.
what is the correct title of South Plainfield Economic Development?
Business.
Advisory and economic development.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, so a lot
Yeah.
of
Advisory
them
group.
are advisory boards that don't necessarily have a set agenda. They just meet monthly to get updates on certain things and stuff like that. But you can always, at any time, if there's minutes for a certain committee, always, you know, you could do it by email, an open public meetings
You could always
request,
request
and
it.
you can get them through email and stuff like that.
Okay, so
Yeah.
who would I email for that?
You would
I
email the borough
you?
clerk.
Okay, and so like a meeting like Derek's meeting on Wednesdays at 7, like that would be there?
Are you
That's something that you would
Derek's
have?
meetings as in
he's talking
business?
about that.
So it's the
Oh,
Business Advisory
advisory
Group. So there are
group.
there's a council economic development committee, and then there's an advisory board. So those are two very different groups and what their purposes are, but yes.
What are
talking
the,
about the
what are the
advisory.
two purposes?
Well,
Sorry.
one's really made up of business owners in town, that it's advisory, so they're looking at any kind of potential, either existing or pending ordinances that are in the borough and what their impact is. It could be other economic development ideas for the downtown or across town. There's been a whole bunch of things. When you're looking at the other development, or the the Economic Development Committee that Councilman White chairs, that's a little bit more diverse, right? So obviously not made up of business owners or anything like that. It's just the council and myself, and it's a little bit of wider, broader spectrum.
Okay, because I have a couple concerns, so I'm just not sure, like, which
So
area. like,
either way, you
would
can reach
address
out to
that.
either myself or Councilman White, and, you know,
Okay.
we can handle those. It's just, one is, the whole point is, one is primarily made up of business owners in town that are looking at, like I said, kind of what I went over, and the other one is a council committee.
Yeah.
Okay.
But if there's a specific issue, it would go to Derek and the Economic Committee on council, because he, like the mayor said, he oversees the planning board, zoning board, you know, business advisory group and stuff like that, where the business advisor, they're just they're not an authority group. They don't have the power to take action on anything. They're only an advisory to the mayor and council.
Right, so for instance, if we're meeting with potential businesses that are coming into town, you know, large owner, commercial owners, you know, anything like that, that's usually handled by Councilman White and myself. He will tend to bring in a larger committee for other things as well.
Okay.
That's not something that's generally, you know, shared, although there may be updates shared at that advisory group where they're necessary.
Okay.
Appropriate.
Again, if you could just consider posting more information
Yeah.
online, because
Sure.
again, I would like to have like a better understanding of how things operate.
Yeah, Amy, so I know there's an economic development website that we have. We can add a section, post those minutes. I'm sure every other committee that we've talked about has a section. We can just add minutes to those as well.
Yeah, plus
And-
if you go to the departments part of the website and you click on it, on like zoning board, on there, it says the agenda and then it has the minutes and stuff like that. See,
Right, but that doesn't, that's only for, like you said,
the planning and zoning,
board.
because they're required by law to have that.
Right.
So the other ones, you know, they're more of advisory boards. They're like environmental commission, they send their minutes to the council to vote on, and then they're in the
But
record.
even like those, like I'd be interested to read too, the environmental committee.
Yeah,
as
they're all
well.
public records.
Right.
Yeah.
just not posted online, but I could get them.
Yes.
if
I think
email
it would
you.
be
You can
after
do an
we,
Oprah request.
We have to
After
approve
we've
them as
approved
a
them.
council before we can put them online anyway, right? So
Yeah,
it would
so
take
like-
some time.
like
to-
tonight, we approved the environmental commissions from March 30th. So then they could be posted.
Okay, and are they posted though?
Currently, I
that
don't,
one.
I don't believe, I don't believe the environmental commission's ever been posted.
No.
Okay. Okay, thank you for the clarification.
You're welcome.
I
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thanks, John.
Anyone else? Yes, Nancy?
I just want to thank you all for coming out to the junior yearbook banquet. The children really enjoyed it, and they enjoyed having you there. And I'm going to give a buzz for Mr. B, who's going to be at the library at
Yes,
5
that's
o'clock
right,
on
Thursday. Mhm.
with his new book, okay?
wow.
Yes, so if anybody wants to come, feel free. Thank you.
Cool. Excellent, thank you. Mr. Sider?
Going with the amended budget, you said, is that gonna still be a $59 increase, tax-wise? Approximate?
5850?
Approximately 58.58, I think is what he said.
Plus the
Who's counting?
478?
No, that
Mhm.
includes the
That
478.
That includes the
all that?
478, correct.
Is the $59 approximate increase have to do with the pool? Is that included? Okay.
Yes.
And then you mentioned the school resource officers in all the schools. How much is that?
It's about 262,000. So it's basically, if you look at the 5 items, you know, to cut it down, it's basically a third of pool, a third of school resource officers, and a third debt and health benefits.
I just want, my
No,
question.
I'm just letting you
Yeah,
know.
my question is with the school resource officer, why is that not out of the school board's budget?
Some of it is.
We split it 50-50. Well, I should say that there's multiple school resource officers. A couple of them, one of them is,
One of them we're paying in full.
one we're paying in full, the other one is 55,000, and then another one's a half.
Correct.
So basically, it comes out to 50-50.
Is that like part of the shared services
Yes.
program? My concern is why I fully believe we should have school resource officers in there. I don't understand why it would be coming out of the municipal side of the budget. Only, having sat on the school board, sometimes, no offense to anybody here, but school board is not due diligent with their budget practices. And I believe that it gives them cause to spend other places that may be not as prudent as the borough of South Plainfield, what
Yeah,
their budget is.
one of the main reasons why, when you look at the shared services with the school, if you take all the days that they're off, the summertime and stuff like that, you know, it's not fair for them to pick up 100% of the pension benefits and stuff like that. A lot of these officers move up to be higher steps, obviously, and we adjust for those costs with the school board, but when it's 180 days of school for the year and 180 days not, you know, we do get a lot of patrol out of them too on the summertime.
Okay, that's great.
But I wouldn't be opposed to having the school board pick up the entire town. So, just saying.
I tried. Rob just put the kibosh to it.
We still have an agreement for another year.
The other question I had is kind of what John Dean said about the street sweeper. Last agenda, we hired, I guess, a full-time street sweeper or promoted somebody to be the broom operator.
Well, we moved up the broom operator to heavy equipment and moved the truck driver into broom, so yes,
So is the broom going to be out on a daily basis?
yes.
Every day, 5 days a week?
They-
One side of town and coming back and doing the other?
They're gonna be out, the plan is out to get them out as much as we can. It is to be out 5 days a week is the plan, but things come up every week that are emergencies, so they're not, I can say they will not be out there every day, 5 days a week constantly. That is how often we have them scheduled to be out there, based on emergencies.
Well, and also, you also have the weather, where if it's a heavy downpour, they can't be
Yeah,
street
we've had a lot of
sweeping.
rain, we've had a lot of issues.
Well, my only issue, again, is the way the town looks. And the corner of Pershing and O'Donoghue has looked that way for 2 years. The broom sweep has not been down there, has not been down O'Donoghue. Pershing and Plainfield Avenue, same situation. There is matted leaves that have been out there for 2 seasons now. The only time those leaves get moved is when the snowplow comes and moves them from one end to the other. I don't see no reason why we can't have a full-time operator that's out there, even with emergencies. That's his job. That's all he should do, one end of the town to the other. We get a notice with our tax bill about the debris in the sewers, keep the debris out of the sewers. Well, that's exactly where the debris is going. On a heavy rain, go around any part of town where the water has moved down the curb line, and that debris is either in the storm basin or on top of it, preventing the water getting down. Same thing with storm sewer repair. Predates you, Len, but finally, a month ago, the storm sewer that had been called in for the last 3 years was finally repaired. You know, we have supervisors, we have people driving around the road. There's storm sewers that still have not been cleaned out with the sewer vac truck. Again, you know, I said this a year ago. We talk about our tax rate, we talk about keeping taxes low. At what expense? This is the easy stuff. This is the simple stuff, the way the town looks.
And one of the things is taking participation of citizens and stuff like that to inform the department of each of those storm sewers, so that, you know, we do have supervisors out there. We're 8 square miles, we're over 100 miles of roads, but if you do see something, call it in, and we'll take care of it.
We have over 3,000 storm sewers.
I get it. But what does that mean?
That means if you see something, to call it in,
You
so.
need an army to keep all those clean.
But you also, if you see something, call it in, and we'll look at it.
You know,
I mean, we're
I have to,
we have, you know, a progress of what we do, and there are so many that we're supposed to clean throughout the year to meet the state standards, along with our storm sewer, along with our sanitary sewers, and our sanitary sewers and the storm sewers, you know, we're on the time frame that's mandated to take care of these things. We have the guys go out anytime there is gonna be a big storm. The crews are going out and they're working on the catch basins to clean the tops of them off, you know, beforehand, before a big storm. But even when they are cleaned off and you get another big storm and people put a lot of their debris into the street. So, I mean, it's an ongoing process.
Yeah, Len, I think we've addressed this. We don't need to beat up the storm sewer. We have the street sweepers that on this 5-day schedule will go out there. Obviously, we're not gonna tell you that they're gonna be out there 5 days if there's an emergency. They're gonna handle the emergency. Len's got full authority to do that.
and you know, to Len's point, people do put things out in the street.
Of course, we see it all the time.
And again, what are we doing about that? I mean, there's things in place that or should be put in place.
You know, I think the same thing Councilman Benjavenga said. If you're seeing these things happen, call the police department, see if they can go out there. We have the street sweeper. People are not going to listen to everything we say. You're not gonna, I'm sure Chief Parker's not gonna wanna go out and ticket people for blowing their grass clippings or stuff in the middle of the street. Things are going to happen. We invested in the street sweeper for this reason. The idea is to have it out there 5 days, but we're not gonna promise you that it's gonna be out there 5 days. If something happens again, Mr. Miller has full authority to make those decisions.
You're also doing South 9th Street. Are you taking care of that lake on the corner of, was it Foster Terrace? Where the storm sewer should be?
McDonough and,
McDonough,
yeah.
I'm sorry, McDonough.
Yeah, there's no storm sewer that we can tie into through grade there. So what they're gonna do is have a gutter go through there the best they can to move that water.
And where are we at with the one that you guys came out a couple of years ago to look at on Pershing and Ladonia?
We still have to look at.
Where there is a storm sewer tie-in.
We're gonna tie it in, there's a number of these things that we're trying to get to. Last year we fixed, I know it doesn't do anything again, but we fixed, those off of Plainfield Avenue.
Well, Len, I think, or Glenn, I think that here's the thing, right? And I'm sure we can nitpick every little storm sewer that needs an upgrade. I know that 10 years before that we were on here, you know, streets were repaved, they were milled and paved, and that was it. we are making an investment. When we repave streets, we're doing it the right way. Unfortunately, I can't help that the people that came before me did not have that same philosophy.
This is not about.
That is largely what it is to do with it, because if you,
No,
yes,
not at
I'm
all,
sorry to
Matt.
disagree, but if you had some of this stuff, some of the same philosophy that we have today, that was going on in these previous years, we wouldn't be having to deal with all of these little things over here. You tell me I'm wrong. You know exactly how the last 10 years were prior to me, where roads were repaved. They were milled and repaved, and that was
Listen,
it. No infrastructure.
I don't disagree with you about what went on prior to your administration.
And that your intersection's a problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
And, but again, I've stood at this dais, when there was an all Democrat administration.
No, I'm not saying you shouldn't be here. I mean, you can.
No, I'm saying, but to go over the same issues.
Yeah.
Okay? Unfortunately, that administration's gone.
Yes.
You guys are
And
here.
that's
all of
exact-
you, irregardless of party.
Exactly.
Okay?
And I think we all share that.
For 10 years.
And I think we all share that same philosophy, that when we make the improvements where we can, but we are going to balance the overall budget. We're not
But
going to make.
But I shouldn't have to keep going over the same
No,
problem.
I agree. I
right?
don't think you have to. So if you report an issue and it's a DPW issue, I'm sure you have Mr. Miller's cell phone. I know you have mine. I see in Home Depot, I spend extensive time. If you don't have it, I'm sure he's willing to give it to you. Right, Miller? Or call down the DPW office as well. I mean, these things should all be addressed. You should stay on them, but I agree. When they're reported, it's our job and our responsibility to follow up. But that doesn't necessarily mean if it requires a large capital outlay that's going to get done in 1 year. Those things are going to be prioritized. That's the way local governments work.
In the last couple of years, we've done Rizzoli, Len, Pierce, Ranger. We're currently looking at sanitary and storm issues in Beatrice, Duffy, I think part of Jackson, and,
Belmont,
and Belmont. And so we're gonna get to O'Donoghue and Pershing. I'm trying to.
He's got to remember the intersection, or else it's not going to get done.
And, we'll try to get to it this year. If not this year, it is tops on the list. There's not, we're going through a lot of these intersections, and, a lot of them have been bad. I mean, I'm not trying to compare, is yours less than others, but, I mean, anybody that was on Orchard knows how bad those intersections, those Ts were. I mean, you had people that were sliding through that intersection on lawns.
Well, and again, like I said, I go down South Ninth, I see that debacle, every day. And of course.
Even South Ninth, we're not doing the road there. I mean, we're doing curbs, we're doing gutters, we're doing a lot of things that, that hasn't been touched since the development was put in.
And put in incorrectly.
Well, just to touch up on this, I mean, I agree. I mean, obviously, if things weren't getting done properly in the past, it's hard to play catch-up. It never happens. You never get caught up. But if we own equipment and the equipment's not being used to its fullest every day, whatever it may be, then we need to do something about that. So if we need to hire 3 more guys, 2 for the sewer vac and 1 for a street sweeper, and get that equipment out running every day, it's only benefiting the borough. Because I know I've been saying it since I got on council 2 years ago about New Market Avenue along the Roosevelt Avenue area, that the storm gutters were, at that time, were only a foot away from the top, filled with sediment. I was walking back from the car wash the other day to my office, and it's now closer to like 6 inches from the top. And when we had that heavy rain a week ago or whatever it was, that we had that heavy rain all day long, that whole area of New Market Avenue now, again, closer up to Roosevelt Avenue, not down by the area where it normally floods, was now flooding because the water's not, the actual drain pipe is covered. It's filled with the sediment. So all this stuff is obviously getting washed into these storm drains, clogging them up. Eventually, at some point, it all does get carried away into all our tributaries and wherever else it may go, and that's what's leading into the one of the major causes throughout New Jersey in general of why we're having such storm water problems with flooding throughout everywhere. So I mean, if Len sees that he needs more guys, qualified guys to run this equipment, I'm all for it. Let's hire the right personnel to run the right equipment and get this equipment out there running. on a daily basis. I understand it's 3,000 storm sewers. It's a lot. I don't know how many they could do in a day, month, whatever it may be. But once we get it done and we stay on top of it, it's only benefiting our borough.
Yeah, no, I agree. Next topic.
I'm sorry if I cut you off.
No, that's perfectly all right, John.
Again, the only other thing I had was about the recycling center with the grass.
Yeah.
And are we doing anything about making it more,
More what?
well, without the holes?
Yeah, we were
Well,
talking
isn't it
about that.
It's moved down, right? Is it
It-
down
yes.
by the?
Well, the grass, but I.
The
I
grass
think-
bins are further
I think a year
down.
ago, you guys were gonna look into, since the compactor's not being used on a regular basis.
Well, it's
about-
been used more than that now than it's ever been.
It is, and so
'Cause
I know,
we added another day versus the past.
yeah, I know Jay's got the
The front loader.
front loader,
Yeah.
thank you. I'm not-
But it is down by the compactor,
Yeah, it's down,
right?
it's down by the
And I
compactor.
believe
Right.
Len was working on getting some kind of fencing going in so that, because it has to be,
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
getting proposals for the
Yep.
fencing.
It's gotta be what?
it's gotta be fenced in. The grass area cannot.
Well, we have to pay
well,
attention
it's-
to,
yeah, whether it's EPA,
Yes.
DEP, or whoever it may be.
Sorry.
Somebody's guidelines we have to follow by.
And the last thing is,
I thought that was the last.
nah, I got one more. I know you wanna
I'm
go.
trying to
Time-
see
is it
Marcus
time
Luttrell
limit
here right
up?
now before he leaves.
You know, with the car show down in the center of town, and then you have Christmas in July.
Uh-huh.
Again, it's something I brought up a year ago. You know, our center of town really starts at the middle school on Plainfield Avenue and winds itself around right down Old Hamilton Boulevard, South Plainfield Avenue. We really should have some type of thing in place. CVS, I was here a year ago to complain about the way it looked. I spoke to Derek. You know, they finally took care of that the day after Mother's Day this year.
Well, I thought they did it
They
last
came in front of the
year,
planning board.
And I noticed it the other day when I did drive by, it was fine.
They
They
didn't.
were out there last week, they were out there last week and the week before, I believe, two times they were out doing it.
You know, that's our statement in town, you know, between that section going through the center of town. You know, whether you call it a beautification department, I don't know whose department it's, you know, whose committee it fall under. You know,
Part of it's under Clean Community. We have those glitter awards and stuff like that, I mean, so.
But again, just to dress up, that's all part of our downtown area.
I agree, if everybody looked like
The dump-
Palos, everything would be
Right,
perfect.
the dumpsters are out in front between the liquor store, you know,
Yeah.
there's garbage still strewn about. Again, this is South Plainfield.
Yeah.
Let's, you know, make it look like something.
Agree. Thank you for sharing your insight this evening.
I'm gonna sit down.
Anyone else?
Put 'em in.
See on you.
Yes, sir.
My name's Akash Trivedi, and I just wanted to say thank you. Not a lot of people talk about mental illness, and I just moved to this town like about a year ago, and before I moved here, my best friend died from one, and it's just something you wouldn't expect. So it makes me happy to know that people with power are doing something about it, so thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, we are going to close the public portion. At this point, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
So moved.
We are adjourned. Have a good evening, everyone.